To say that I'm deeply disappointed with Xbox's recent business decisions is an understatement, ladies and gentlemen. The leadership of Phil Spencer's kind of been not fully there. You know, we thought he was the chosen one, the Anakin Skywalker, if you will. He's a guy that feels pretty relatable to everybody. You look at him, you think, okay, this guy's a gamer. He gets it. And then for every 2 steps forward that Xbox makes, they do 3 steps back. And it seems like every time I think Xbox is finally going to be doing something great, it's just another empty promise. We always hear Xbox has some games coming up. They got some big things planned for the world of the Xbox, and they're going to step it up, and we're going to hear about all these great first party titles, and then they shut down studios like they did the other day, and they cut jobs. Now, yes, it's the corporate world, it's the gaming industry, it's dog eat dog. We get it. It happens. But this just doesn't sit well with me. And apparently, it doesn't sit well with a lot of gamers as well, because looking at the studios that they cut, Arcane Austin, they brought Redfall out, a game that had a lot of potential. And we're going to talk about my thoughts on Redfall. But on top of that, Tango Gameworks, their only Japanese studio, they cut it down. They closed it. It's like they don't give a shit about growing in the economy of Japan ever. And if they don't capture Japan, they're not going to ever be any kind of, I guess, close competition to PlayStation. Sure, they're a competitor, but let's be real. Sony's killing it in Japan. Nintendo's killing it in Japan. Xbox, nobody gives a shit over there. And they had a Hi-Fi Rush, probably one of the most critically acclaimed Xbox games in some time, that just recently went multi-platform. And for whatever reason, they closed 2 of these studios that had games that showed the most potential in recent years for Xbox. I'm pretty concerned about the future of the Xbox brand, the platform, even Game Pass to an extent. But all this derives from management. And I touched on this the other day. I've seen other YouTubers talk about it, RGT85, Dreamcast Guy, just to name a couple. This is a concern, all right? Because where businesses fail, it often leads to trouble in the gaming industry. And a lot of people have felt that the gaming industry as a whole recently is dying. They're expecting a video game crash. You've seen people kind of do this sensationalism. Hey, there's going to be a new video game crash. Is the game industry in trouble? Because, you know, it was just a short few months ago that Sony actually laid a lot of company off as well. Don't forget, Sony laid people off. But this one with Xbox just has me stumped, because it seems like all of the right tools were right there for Xbox as a whole to grow, to have potentially good new IP, those first party exclusives that they've been wanting. And then they just seem quite impatient. It's almost like nobody there knows how to handle business when it comes to creating IPs. Super Mario Brothers wasn't successful overnight. Miyamoto had a lot of fails with Nintendo before he got the formula right. And it seems like Xbox, they want the shortcut. I love Xbox. I try to support Xbox as much as I could. Most of the time when I'm playing a third-party game, it's on Xbox because of Game Pass, but also I get a lot of indie games through the Xbox store, and I like to play them. I feel the Xbox is a great console and underrated, but as far as first-party goes and as far as like actual like Xbox in-house development goes, they just constantly drop the ball, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, folks, and I think closing studios like Tango and Arcane Austin is a big mistake. They literally, like I mentioned, created beloved games like Hi-Fi Rush, Dishonored, Ghostwire Tokyo, Redfall. It seems like a huge misstep. And I know the other day the Xbox was saying that they're basically reprioritizing their resources and assets so that they could focus on making games that are high impact, like they're high impact franchises, which you all know. With Bethesda, that means Skyrim and Fallout, especially Fallout now with the success of the Fallout series. Fallout fever is at a high pitch, and people kind of want a brand new Fallout game. Sorry, you know, all these little games, these IPs like Redfall and Hi-Fi Rush. Guess what? You're not as high impact in the books of Xbox. It's like they're impatient. It really is, and you hate to see it. I think these studios like Arcane Austin and Tango, they were working on very promising projects. There's a lot of projects now that are never going to see the light of day now because they're shut down effectively. At the very least, why didn't they just let these studios go independent and keep working on their projects, or let them go strictly multi-platform? I I I don't know. I guess because I'm not a billionaire and I'm not in the company, I don't know that. But you would think at the very least they would have let these studios go independent. And closing so many studios down, yeah, I know it's only four, but these were four big ones that had games in the recent year that did very well. I think closing them raises questions about their commitment to building quality gaming experiences. They want the easy route, like I said. They want the for sure money makers. And yes, money talks, bullshit walks. You'll get money off of a bad Skyrim game. You know, the next Elder Scrolls 6 could be complete dog shit and you'll still make millions and millions of dollars compared to Hi-Fi Rush, which might be a high quality game that plays great, but the fan base ain't the same. I guess numbers at the end of the day talks, and it's strictly only business. And to be honest, that fucking sucks. I think that sucks. Now, let's talk about Redfall a little bit. That release for that game was rushed. They had a lot of hype behind it. I remember seeing the first Redfall trailer premiere, and I was like, okay, this looks kind of cool. It's like vampires. It has like a cartoony look to it, and I think it might be good. But it was rushed. It was not ready to be released in any form or fashion. It was plagued with bugs. And the main thing is, other than like the initial trailer, they lacked any kind of real marketing and promotion for it. You would think that a big, huge first party title, you would promote the hell out of it. You would see advertisements all over your homepage, the market, the Xbox Live Store. You would see it on websites, video game news journalists' websites, and you would see commercials. I don't think I saw one commercial for Redfall on television or any Xbox game, to be honest, except Starfield. I think that was like the only one I've seen commercials for in the last year. What are they doing? Are they not using any of their marketing budget at all? I think that further demonstrates that Xbox has very questionable decision making. How are people supposed to get behind your IP if you're not even marketing your content right? Think about that. And we have one huge game coming up right now, Hellblade 2, right? This game has a lot of hype behind it. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a very highly anticipated title for a lot of us. But again, where's the marketing push for it? Yeah, I saw an icon for it on my homepage on the Xbox, but other than that, I haven't seen one single commercial for Hellblade 2. I've seen the Game Awards talk about it. I've seen IGN and all this, but where's the in-house marketing that this game is getting? This is probably one of the most anticipated games. It's going to be good. And it's almost like they're just relying on people to log into Game Pass and see that it's available and be like, oh, I'll download it. It's available, instead of marketing it. Game Pass is not something to market. It's there, it's an option, but it's not enough. If Xbox wants to become a legit competitor in this space, they got to do more than just put a game on Game Pass and call it a wash. They got to have commercials. They got to have advertisements. They got to promote stuff. They got to have influencers become ambassadors for the programs and stuff. Like Nintendo, they had a great Nintendo ambassador program about a decade ago when the Switch first came out. PlayStation, I don't know how their ambassador program goes, but Ubisoft, a lot of these companies have PR companies that reach out to influencers. When's the last time you've heard of Xbox having any kind of like ambassador program? That alone could help them and change wonders by a lot. Um, you got to think of what is Xbox priorities at this point. Like, what are they really focusing on? It's like they have the Xbox console, but they make it just so they could sell physical video games for, I guess, a revenue stream. But they honestly just want to focus on Game Pass and buying up studios to eventually close them. And there's no future focus there. There's no ambition. And is this Phil Spencer's fault? If you really want to slice it up, is it his fault? Now, I think Xbox does emphasize building relationships with the Xbox fans. You know, that's good. Trying to build a community. It's admirable. Yes, you want to build your loyalists. You want to have loyal, dedicated following. But at what cost is this at? You want to deliver great games, right? You want to have good games for people to play. But when you're shutting down studios, that's when it becomes a mess. And it's like, at what point does it make any sense? I think even most loyal supporters right now are getting pretty fed up. And you're growing disillusioned when you're making decisions like this. You know, it's almost like they don't care at this point, and there's a huge disconnect between Xbox's direction and fans' expectations, and there shouldn't be. At least, you know, with PlayStation, and I'm not trying to be a Sony pony right now, but at least with PlayStation, for every mess up they have, they still have a direction. They still have a focus that they want to go, and for the most part, they've killed it, which is why they have such a local following. Nintendo, another prime example, they could always have an underpowered console like the Switch that's obsolete at this point, but they have a loyal fan base that is there for their first party titles, for the Marios, the Zeldas, you name it. What does Xbox have at this point? At this point, it really seems like the 360 was a fever dream. That was like peak gaming, in my opinion. They had it right during that console generation, and then they floundered during the Xbox One with every single mistake that they made. I think they need to sit down and reassess their approach. I think they need to look at management. If Phil Spencer has to go, he has to go. Clean it up from the ground up. Instead of focusing solely on acquiring studios that you're never going to do anything with and in focusing on Game Pass, you need to prioritize creating compelling games, even if they're simple. Not every game needs to be like a $300 million budget video game. Make a good game, high quality games that resonate with players, like a Hi-Fi Rush, which is funny because they literally said that they're getting rid of these studios so they could have studios that would focus on creating new IP that's creative. And Hi-Fi Rush was a brand new IP that was creative, that actually has a loyal following behind it. Now we won't even get a sequel to it. Now, Sarah Bond, she actually did an interview, which I'm going to show you guys right here in a second. I think she absolutely fumbled it. She avoided talking about the real question here. I don't think this was a good look at all when it comes to this whole situation with Xbox, especially because what she says, it kind of contradicts what Xbox is all about at this point in time and their exact reason and why they shut down the studio. So let's go ahead and check this out. All right, so I've seen a few people talk about this interview, and you could tell by Sarah's body language that she's definitely uncomfortable. I don't know if they just threw her out there to the wolves, to be completely honest. She seems completely unprepared. But take a look at the question that she's asked and how she feels around it. So you can see Tom Warren said Xbox President Sarah Bond responds to a question from Bloomberg's Dina Bass about why Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks was shut down. And they have a full interview that goes on for like I think 17 minutes or so, but this is like a 1 minute segment. So let's check this out right here.
I think one of the things that was most upsetting both to Xbox gamers and to employees is that, one of the shuttered studios in particular just created a hit game, did really well on Game Pass and in terms of engagement, and won a ton of awards. Shouldn't succeeding in that way ensure the future of a studio?
So real quick, I'm so glad that she asked this question, and she also emphasized that this made a hit game and it had awards, because Hi-Fi Rush did win awards, and it was by all definition a hit game, and that studio still got taken down. So let's look at Sarah's answer right here.
One of the things I really love about the games industry is it's a creative art form. And it means that the situation and what success is.
You could totally tell right off the bat she was caught off guard with that. Good job, Bloomberg.
For each game and studio is also really unique. Like there's no one size fits all to it for us. And so we look at each studio, each game team, and we look at a whole variety of factors when we're faced with sort of making decisions and trade-offs.
Also, just FYI, this chart right here in the back, that's actually showing Xbox's year growth in revenue. You can see they've been killing it, yet for whatever reason, they're closing studios down. Something ain't adding up right here. Let's continue.
Like that. But it all comes back to our long-term commitment to the games we create, the devices we build, the services, and ensuring that we're setting ourselves up to be able to deliver on those promises.
Okay. Aka, excuse me? What did she say about anything? She didn't directly answer anything about Hi-Fi Rush. She said it comes down to their long-term commitment, which to me was just a whole bunch of empty words. She said a lot without saying anything at the same time. Hi-Fi Rush won a lot of awards, and I'm not even a big fan of the game, but it just doesn't make sense that they would tarnish something, which this is trending around too. This is a little tweet that one of the people showing the shelves of Hi-Fi Rush, all the awards that Hi-Fi Rush got. Take a look at this. This studio, these are awards for Hi-Fi Rush, all listed right here. Game Awards award, you got a couple of them right here. When's the last time you heard an Xbox game, one that was exclusive, even though now it's multi-platform, getting this much of a response? I can't even fathom the decision that they've made when it comes to this game. They've really let this down. And yeah, you could say it's in favor of Fallout and Bethesda's, money makers. That's still not good. I have every right to say that's not good. This studio, Tango Gameworks, deserved so much better, especially being the studio in Japan. And if not, if Xbox wasn't going to keep them, Xbox should have either A, let them go independent, or B, sold them. I guarantee you Nintendo could have found something for this studio to do. Maybe PlayStation. No disrespect at all to Sarah Bond. I'm sure she's had many successes and many glowing achievements throughout the years. And maybe this ain't her fault. Giving her a benefit of a doubt, maybe Microsoft threw her to the wolves, whatever speculation you want to get. Her answer didn't even remotely answer anything that was presented by this reporter. She didn't address Tango Gameworks directly. She skirted around it. Nothing in the response gives any justification at all. And that's why people are pissed. That's why people are mad. It's almost frustrating. You almost want to like grab the entire Xbox booty, Spencer, Bond. You almost want to grab them and just shake them and be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" This level of incompetence is surreal at this point. And again, I was hopeful this year for Xbox as a whole. I still have my Series X. I still play it. I still have Game Pass. I was hopeful, with games like Indiana Jones coming out and Starfield that came out. I still enjoyed that. Hellblade 2. I was hopeful. I was holding on. But it just seems like they are completely tone deaf for whatever reason. If they're being restricted, if they're being held, if they're not in the clue enough either, like maybe they're just as clueless as we are as consumers. Maybe this is Microsoft's plan. Maybe they want to get rid of Xbox as a whole and just make it Microsoft gaming instead of Xbox gaming. Who fucking knows at this point? Because let's be real, corporations are going to do what they want, right? Now, funny enough that I mentioned that Xbox Microsoft gaming thing, because there's this tweet going around as well. We're going to look at some Twitter stuff. Gene Park posted this. I spoke to two former longtime Xbox employees separately, and both lamented the current state of the business. One told me prior to this week's awful studio closures, I had lengthy conversations with a bunch of Xbox founders, and we all came to the same conclusion. It's no longer Xbox, but Microsoft Gaming. Ouch. So I'm going to give a small sliver benefit of the doubt to the heads of Xbox. Maybe they are being pushed and bullied and left clueless by Microsoft. Maybe Microsoft wants to rebrand everything and just get rid of the Xbox brand and move on without them. Maybe they're killing it from inside slowly, like how Vince McMahon had the NWO poison WWE. Who knows? Who cares? But having people like Sarah Bond go out on interviews and stuff like this and seemingly look like they're unprepared is not a good look, especially when you're getting a huge backlash from people that are gamers. Gaming industry's in a weird point right now, and this is not a good look at all. And I think this is the start of a lot of things to come. You saw rumors recently of Game Pass price increase coming. You've seen rumors of more employees being laid off. It wasn't too long ago that they had 1,900 people laid off. Sony also laid people off. I think things are looking pretty dark. Now, I saw another interesting tweet here that was posted by Alan Feely, and he says this was from a former EA guy, ex-Microsoft EA guy. Now, bear with me. This is a wall of text, ladies and gentlemen. But Brad goes on to say there's two reasons why all those Bethesda studios closed, and neither of them have anything to do with Bethesda directly. It's Game Pass and Activision, according to Brad, which I guess that makes sense. He goes on to say the biggest paradox with Game Pass is that basically every game that launches on the service badly misses its sales goals. Makes sense though. Why pay full price to buy a game when you can play for free as part of your subscription? This is accounted for somewhat by attributing portions of revenue to top performing Game Pass games every month, but there are factors working against games, namely the fact that most games don't stay at the top of the chart for more than a month or two, and also that Game Pass growth has stagnated. So games like Hi-Fi Rush, which is incredible, mind you, gets a very small bump in revenue from being the hot Game Pass game for a month. Then it falls off a cliff when everyone moves on to the next thing. Poor Redfall had it even worse since it launched so rough it never had a chance. Now, I guess that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty much what everybody's been speculating with Game Pass, that it literally cannibalizes the game sales. I can't remember the last time I bought a first party Game Pass video game because it's always free. Starfield, I just paid for like the upgrade, but like all the other first party Xbox games, I mean, not Game Pass, first party Xbox games, I've never gone out of my way to go buy it physically if it's day one on Game Pass. So they're cannibalizing themselves. So this goes on to say the system was fine for a while when Game Pass was growing like gangbusters, but now it's slowed way down and the amount of revenue it's attributing to games isn't keeping up with the budgets to make them. But all that wouldn't have mattered even 3 or 4 years ago because back then Xbox was basically a rounding error on Microsoft's books. The division made some money, but more importantly, it didn't cost that much, and other parts of the business easily covered the gap. Then Xbox went on a buying spree and spent a lot of money on Bethesda, but orders of magnitude more on Activision. Now the eye of Sauron has turned, and Xbox is expected to start making that $70 billion back, or at least cut expenses to the bone, and then some while they try. So they definitely spent a lot acquiring Bethesda and ZeniMax. Did they give up too easy? I think they did. Maybe it was because people at Microsoft were bitching about it, but you're essentially cutting yourself in the neck when you're basing sales off when you're promoting Game Pass as well. It's a lose-lose, especially since Game Pass subscriptions are stagnant according to this. To just give up on new IPs and I guess go to the ones that you know that are the old faithfuls like the Fallouts and Skyrims because they want to go focus on the main titles they know will sell. Sure, that seems like a short-term goal, but there's only so many things that you can do with games like Elder Scrolls. Those take forever to make. Look how long ago Skyrim came out, and Elder Scrolls 6 is not coming out anytime soon. I don't even think ESO does that great anymore. It still has a pretty big following, but what are you gonna do? Look how long Fallout games take to make. They need new IPs, and they're cutting out studios that can make them. Continue on, this says that brings us back to Game Pass. So far, the big bets on driving new subscriptions, Redfall, Starfield, haven't spurred near enough growth, and there's not much on the horizon that's likely to restart the momentum. The best bet is Call of Duty, but do you really risk the guaranteed sales revenue that franchise brings by putting it on Game Pass day one and potentially lose massive sales? I don't know what the plans are, but either you put it on Game Pass and lose money, or you don't, and the subscribers revolt because they think that's what they signed up for. Call of Duty will be fine, though, as will the other mega studios with huge IPs, but you're seeing the impact. All these smaller studios making really interesting games are going to fall away simply because as good as games like Hi-Fi Rush are, they're never going to make enough money to make up that $70 billion hole that Xbox now has to dig itself out of. And that's the point. You're going to be eating profits if you put Call of Duty on there day one. I could say maybe like a year after it comes out, maybe even 6 months. Man, who knows how really bad this rabbit hole goes where they're stuck between Game Pass memberships and game sales. It's definitely a lose-lose situation, and they can't climb out of this hole. I don't know. Maybe there's something that they could do. I feel Game Pass, as far as like indies go, can help bring attention to them, but at the same time, if these indies and these lower like titles that you're wanting to acquire aren't making money because they're on Game Pass, this is bad. It literally seems like you have several divisions of Xbox coming up with different ideas of how to run the business, and none of them know what to do because it's all conflicting with each other. And the people at the top, like Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer and Matt Booty, have no clue what the fuck they're doing to make it work. Should Microsoft just sell off all the studios, or should they make these studios go multi platform? Should they get rid of Game Pass? I would, and I know it's easy for me to say this because I'm not involved in the business, I would quickly start at least licensing out your properties. Why isn't, what's that game? Rare Replay on Nintendo Switch officially? Why isn't Battletoads on Nintendo Switch? Why, move your Xbox properties, at least your old stuff, Conkers, Banjo, all that, move them, make it all multi-platform, license your stuff out, make more merch, find a way to make more of your games multi-platform. You got Activision, make those games multi-platform, push them out there, make some money off of your IPs if you're not going to do anything with them. It's almost like they're scared to fail. Like they don't want IPs and games to be made because if they fail, they're going to cut the studios now. If I was a developer for a studio that was underneath Xbox, I would be looking for a new job right now. I would be terrified that the second we make a game that doesn't perform to their expectations, that I would be losing my job. And that's not a good thing at all. I feel for all these people that lost their jobs this past week. It's a very shitty situation, especially when you're dealing with things above your head. It's not any of their fault that the game didn't do any kind of expectations that the corporate heads wanted. It's these weird, unrealistic standards that they're holding that are almost impossible because everything that is being focused on is eating away at something else that's also being focused on. It's like they're contradicting their own goals and setting themselves up for failure on purpose. So I think my reasoning here is everything is because of lack of management. And they need to start cleaning house at the top. They need to put some fresh focus on there. They need to decide to shit or get off the pot when it comes to console development. If you're going to go third party and go software only, you can still make Game Pass a thing. Put Game Pass on Switch or Nintendo devices, put it on PlayStation devices, and don't make Xbox consoles anymore. You can still have Xbox consoles if you decide to properly, I guess, market your games. But the I guess the main thing here is the Game Pass aspect of it. It's not making profits, and supposedly they're wanting to increase the price to offset that. I think that's only going to backfire. Look at what happened with PlayStation Plus not too long ago when they increased the price on that. A lot of people freaking revolted against it. They got some serious backlash because of them raising the prices, and they feel there wasn't enough value. For the most part, I feel people at least enjoy Game Pass. They feel that they get a good value on Game Pass. But again, the day ones premiering on Game Pass definitely hurts the sales. And if Xbox and Microsoft are getting pissed off that game sales aren't enough, maybe you should just do away with day ones. But then you're going to get people pissed off that they're not having day one releases anymore. So then, what are you going to do? I think they fucked themselves hard into a position that they can't get out of. And who knows? Who knows? So let me know your thoughts, guys. Thank you for watching.